Morning, everyone. Hi. I'm slightly disheveled from the school run, so I'm just I'm just coming back to centre. It's so rainy in Northumberland today, and it just causes multiple chaoses. Double school run in two separate directions. Everyone's dropped off and happy and dry, but I am, yeah, slightly disheveled. So I'm here. I've got my cup of tea. Good morning. I hope everyone's okay. So we're going to get started. If you're new here, you're really welcome to have your camera off or on. There'll be an opportunity to talk if you want to, but you don't have to. You can use the chat. And we're going to start by using the chat. So what I'd really love you to do is just have a moment or two just to think about your goals for November. So for me, my goal for November is to sort December on Substack. So I really want to make sure that I can have some things scheduled and some things sorted and feel really organized for the month of December into January. So that's what I'm going to be doing a little bit of journaling on in this first few minutes. If you'd like to put your Substack URL in, but just give it a couple of minutes, because as people are arriving, they might miss it. So do a little bit of journaling first on goal setting for November, and then put your Substack URL in. And if you want to share your goals, you're super welcome to do that. So I'll just put that prompt in the chat for everyone. Just pushing in. Great. And as we're just gathering, you can put questions in the chat at any time. If I'm talking or somebody else is talking and you've got a question, feel free to put them in the chat, and that just makes the most efficient use of our time. And then we'll have a little Q&A kind of talky session at the end as well, which will just be Substack generic. So the focus today is on joyful growth, and I'm doing 3 mini workshops like this because there's so much to say about it. So I've kind of split it up into 7 different pillars, if you like, or 7 different bullet points of how I kind of approach joyful growth. And I'm going to share 2 of them with you today, and then we'll split the others out over the next workshops, which will all be recorded. But yeah, the way that I work is very person-centered. So obviously we're all coming with different sets of experiences and different reasons for being on Substack. And we're kind of questioning, like, am I a writer? Am I creative here? Like, how's it all going to work? So everything's welcome, and there are no silly questions. You're all super welcome. So I'm just gonna, I will give you just a couple of minutes. I'm gonna write mine down so I can do the work with you as well. So feel free to just keep journaling, finishing off. Just apologize for my disheveled look this one. I've just been saying I've been like running in on 2 school runs in 2 separate directions in a rainstorm. So yes, I've arrived. I'm here. I've got a cup of tea. So when I was journaling things out, a lot around my goal setting process is also intention setting. So for some of you, it might be, okay, like I want to grow 20 subscribers, or I want to grow 5 paid subscribers. It might be numerical. For some people, it might be about how you feel coming to the platform. It might be about a particular piece of work that you want to do. I want to say congratulations to Lindsay as well on her incredible podcast. I think it's a podcast. It felt like an audio excerpt, but it was beautiful. I listened this morning. Well done. If you haven't listened and you have some time, it's about 6 minutes long. And yeah, I just thought it was incredible. Really, really special. Thank you, Lindsay, for your amazing work. So yes, come into the platform in more creative ways. And so when I was writing my November goals, I have a Substack meetup to sort out for Annex Storyfest in February, and that's super, super exciting. And I know there's like an official Substack channel that you can register things through, so I've got that as one of my goals to do. And then my second goal was around, like I said, sorting December's post content. And I gave myself 3 intentions. The first was hold space. The second was get playful/bold. And the third was nourish my audience. So last December, I shared a really special piece of writing that I wrote that is a children's story centered around processing grief. And I shared a couple of chapters of it with my paid for audience on Creatively Conscious. And I didn't have tons of paid members or anything like that. It was more around me witnessing publishing that work, because it's probably about 4 years old now. And I really wanted to give people this kind of Christmas gift. It's quite magical and ethereal, and there's like loads of spirituality in it. So it's really special to me. And I just wanted to share it like without expectation. And so I'm questioning whether I share another excerpt from that children's story. I haven't done anything else with it other than a few friends have written it. So maybe I'll do that on Creatively Conscious. But I'm really interested in this get playful and bold intention that I've sent myself, because I feel like sometimes we can get stuck in this place of like, oh, this is what I do. You know, I publish on a Thursday, and then sometimes there's a weekend supplement, or other times, you know, a podcast goes out on a Monday. And I think Substack is very generous in letting us test new ways of being and test new ways of showing up. So I'll go into that a little bit more in this session, I think, and try and fathom out what that is calling me to do. If anyone else wants to share goals, I'm just going to read a little few out before we get going with all the joyful growth stuff. Thank you all for sharing your URLs. That's so lovely. So just scrolling to the top, making sure I don't miss anybody. To be a fast reader, don't you, to do this? Great. So Vanessa says, November goal is to turn on paid and do the logistics and updates on about page required for that. I write about using AI for interviews. Oh yes, I've heard Vanessa in a masterclass before, which was just like mind blowing. Like, I just feel like it's super creative and super special. And also like, is this real? Like, have we landed on an alien planet, or is this our life now? Like, I love it. It's great. Brilliant, Vanessa. Yes. So the about page is really important in all of that, as is that kind of welcome and that kind of nurturing space. So paid people know where to find things, as I've learned the hard way, you know, like multiple questions about where's the link, you know, where's the recording. So I just really try and over communicate, if I'm honest, because there's always going to be someone that's a bit lost. So yeah, that's good to do. Lovely. Yeah, that's okay. You can come and go as you leave. That's as you need to. That's fine. Just reading through. Right. Okay. So I've got another goal from Alice. Hi, Alice. Goal is to finish a new piece. I harnessed the power of a supermoon and my boyfriend left me. Wow. 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 Which is due out Friday and includes an interview with a witch. Well, we're all going to pop over and read that one, Alice. Thank you for sharing that. And, you know, again, sometimes we say ourselves, okay, that's the goal, that's the deadline. And other times, you know, it's like, oh no, we need to publish it now, or actually I need to sit with that for a bit longer. And I think that's a really interesting creative process to go with Substack, because that schedule button is very tempting, but so is the sort of post now button for me. I'm like, oh, I just want to put it out. It's so interesting with the timings. Right, brilliant. Thanks for sharing, Amber. Eve, so goal is to rest, to grow my Substack, launch podcast, improve my YouTube. So quite a few little tinkering bits from Eve while working less. It's been a very dramatic few months and I've been overdoing work in an effort to be there for loved ones and my own illnesses since September. The feral kittens, maybe Eve's got kittens, she could clarify. Yeah, I think, being really honest about getting to this point in the year and how we feel, like we can keep some momentum up, but Substack will support us anyway, whether we post or not. Like Substack does help us grow if we're working the way that Substack wants us to and being very generous in our community building. It will just share our work. That's what they do. Emma's goal is to go through the audit that I've done. Yeah, I did a Sparkle audit for Emma, which was really good. Emma writes this lovely Substack called Lemon Soul, and I just think the word, I went on for ages to Emma about how like just those two words together just make me want to like connect more to that, like those two really strong words sitting together. I just want to connect more to what that is. I love it. A big essay out this week from Chelsea. The artist in shadow work, interviewing, next essay. Great. Okay, so lots of writing based goals. Great. Tamsin says a features section, some submissions for that. Oh, is that, yeah, that's the secret space. Gorgeous. Yeah, you should check that out, guys. So Tamsin's got this beautiful invitation where we can write something anonymously that is like a secret or something that we want to get off our chest, and she handles it really delicately and then publishes our work in the world, but anonymously. So yeah, there's that. Lindsay's going to nurture a community, lots of vulnerable sharing from members this week, making sure that I have capacity for that engagement. Yeah, sometimes that's it, isn't it? When we're publishing something and leaving comments switched on because we want to, we're not always prepared for what might come back in terms of the depth of what people might have been called to share or how things might have felt within them. So super important to realize that that is part of the work, isn't it? Yeah, for sure. Jackie's going to revise a Substack, new channel, exciting. I've just started reading them all out. I'm going to stop, right? But they're in there and hopefully we'll come back to them. But I want to do some work with you all. So thank you all for sharing. They're all amazing. And I think just you seeing how other people are setting and framing up their goals is a precious thing, isn't it? Just to see how other people work and how other people are with the platform. Joyful growth. Here we go. Joyful growth that feels sustainable. So the two things that I wanted to share today, the first one was about generosity, and it was really interesting for me to go back into this because it is very much just in me to be generous as a person, to read as many Substacks as I can, to be part of communities, to share people's work. Like it just feels like a really beautiful thing to do on the platform. And I wanted to kind of share a little bit more around where that can almost have a domino effect in a positive way, or start a wildfire, if you like, in a positive way, and where sometimes it gives us a nudge to kind of shift where we need to go. So I've had the same approach on Substack since I kind of started building community, and I didn't start at the very beginning. As you guys know, I started to be able to kind of have somewhere to express what I wanted to write long form, and then it kind of shifted into building community after that. And as I've kind of tried to share people's work, restack, bring people in to do collaborations, there have been so many surprises along the way. Sometimes people either don't reply, or maybe they haven't seen it or something, so your generosity kind of stops in its tracks. And other times that generosity just keeps on spiraling and bringing loads more gifts into your Substack space. And that could be connections to other people, little chats offline, off Instagram, off Substack on Instagram, or I've even got a few folks on WhatsApp. I've had lovely email exchanges with people. I've been invited to do collaborations, just really by showing up and being okay with the fact that if somebody doesn't want to respond to my generosity, that's okay. If somebody doesn't connect with my work, that's okay. I think that was definitely a process, because at first I started to notice when people weren't either being generous back, and I wasn't doing it for them to be generous back. I genuinely just wanted to like lift people up if I'd loved their work or I loved that they'd had something to say. So I started to notice when that wasn't happening, that wasn't coming back reciprocally. And then also where people would just maybe put a like and not, comment and say, thanks so much for sharing, or, whatever they wanted to say. And what it meant was that I was kind of nudged in new directions, because what I really wanted to do is build community in a way that felt really joyful. And I noticed that when people didn't respond, that felt less than joyful. Like, it was fine, but it was like, oh, that doesn't, I'm not feeling the joy. I'm not feeling like part of the rising tide lifts all ships. I'm not feeling part of the, like, the gang, or, you know, and I've heard people say this, that they feel like it's too late to get in, or they don't know how to do it, or whatever. So my point is, I refocused towards generosity without expectation, but I didn't stop lifting people up. I just noticed when it wasn't quite reciprocal, and it's very subtle, very, very subtle. And last night, we'd been chatting on, Beth Kempton has come to the platform. I think I'd mentioned her in my Stay Creative email. I'm genuinely excited about her being on the platform. I love her work. She did a really generous, in my opinion, call out to people to say, this is the back page of my book. I've got 3 different options. Do you guys want to choose which one? You can vote, you can share it. It's a competition. It just felt really, really fun and really, really generous. So I'd originally responded to the note and tagged a friend in who I know absolutely loves our work and listens to all our podcast episodes. She's obsessed with us. So I did that. And then responded myself and felt that real pull towards being asked, you know, like, she is a best-selling author. She's done some beautiful work in the world. And she's saying to us, this would really help me, but like in a genuine way, like she genuinely wanted to hear from us. And that felt really, really beautiful. And I responded, and then she shared this call was happening. So I'd done a note about this call, and I literally was like, what? You know, and it's still that surprise of like, oh, of course, generosity breeds generosity. And I'm still always so surprised if and when it happens from someone who's got maybe a bigger profile or whatever else. And then you just think, well, they're just people, and they're going, this is great, you know, this is great, know about this, connect to this. If it connects, it connects. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So generosity, yes, is the first real kind of pillar that I wanted to talk about in joyful growth. But generosity to the point of really deeply understanding what connects, what feels good, what isn't feeling so good. So sometimes there are nudges, you know, we might have been part of someone's publication and we might have really celebrated them, and then actually maybe it's time for us to unsubscribe, you know, if we're not feeling that reciprocal connection, if it doesn't look like it's going anywhere. Or maybe it's okay that we still want to read that work. Like, we can choose, right? So we don't owe anybody anything, but if we want to build community and we want to grow our Substacks, we're looking for that joyful connect. So that was the first thing I wanted to tell you about. So we're going to do a journaling prompt on that. And I wanted you to reflect on if there have been any moments of connection that you really felt were genuine. Like, you know, when you see somebody in real life and they say, I read your email, I loved it. Or, you know, somebody falls into your email inbox and says, let's do a collaboration together. Or, you want to be in my podcast, you know. So any of those spaces where you felt like, oh, that was so joyful, I loved that that happened. We're just trying to get to the essence of what that was and the essence of what the connect was. So I'll put that question in the chat, and then we'll just spend about 5 minutes wondering about that. If you're newish to Substack and you haven't had that yet, I want you to write about somebody that you would love to collaborate with. So someone I would love to collaborate with is Susanna Conway. I sent her an email. She said yes. It was literally as easy as that. So I've been doing this work for about 6 months now and kind of going, okay, like, who would I love to collaborate with? Who would my audience love to hear from? So part of that is getting really clear on who is it and why, and is there someone already there that I'm already talking to, or is it someone different? So I'll put that in the chat and we'll spend a few minutes. Yeah. Okay. So if you feel called to write anything that cropped up, in a nutshell for you in the chat, then you can. One of the things I went into was that I'm doing a collaboration with Claudia Wild, and we've started planning it already, but I wanted to go into like all of the different points of connection because we've connected on so many levels. It's almost like we want to share everything, but we'll need to kind of narrow it down. So we're going to be collaborating in the month of December, maybe like 2 or 3 times. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, I just kind of noted down the points of connection and the medium for connection. So we're going to try some audio together, which might be some of me and some of her. It might be us together. We'll see how it all pans out, but I'm excited for that. So that cropped up. I do want to look at more collaboration for the new year, but I've got some calls booked in. This week's really busy, and then I've got some calls booked in January as well. So I feel like it's all right. Like it started happening really organically. And I love to collaborate. I literally just love it. So I would love to collaborate with any of you, here. That would be a beautiful thing to do. So if there's anything that you want to write in the chat to share with the group, that's super, super useful. And then we'll move on to the second point around joyful growth. Just going to have a little check with if anyone's put anything. Yeah, Eve's making the point about getting to know people better. And I really feel that as well. I feel like somehow the long form style of Substack and the way that we are called to kind of show up and write thoughtful comments and share each other's work, it does give us that depth of connection maybe that we've been missing from social media. I certainly found that hard on social media in some pockets of time. Used to be Wabi Sabi. I'm just reading this. First guest on the podcast, amazing, and an online friend. I love that. And Eve says, I was so scared about contacting him. Yes, I want to go into that. So I've spoken to you guys about this before, but I feel like I've got this sort of sense of when you contact people, the email might get lost. Do you send a follow-up? But some of that as well is this. I love Emma Gannon, but she sent an email out last night and I was like, oh my God, that is terrifying. So from the world of pitching and journalistic pitches, there's a lot involved in pitching someone, right? Like that is a big skill set. Like people have worked their whole careers to be really good at that. People are kind of weaving in accolades and awards and publications. Like that's not my style, and that's okay. So my first response was to feel really terrified, and my second response was to think, well, if I feel like that, I'm probably not the right fit for this publication. Maybe that's a self-limiting belief, but maybe it's okay that I'm doing things in my own way. And I've talked about this before. Sometimes, with me, it's like done is better than perfect because I've got care and responsibilities. I've got a limited amount of time. I want things to work, but if they don't work, if it falls down, it's okay. If the response doesn't come in, it's fine. And actually, more often than not, people don't mind like a gentle message. Like Annie Ridout came on the podcast and we just chatted on Instagram. Like I loved what she was doing. And I was like, I'm really interested to talk to you. She was like, yeah, I'll book in for Saturday. So that was super interesting. And the same with Susanna. Susanna responded straight away. She loves Substack. She loved the idea of coming on the podcast. And I was just like, okay, but I didn't write a big long PDF about who I am in the world. I was just like, I do this podcast. This is what it's about. Do you fancy coming on? So it's very casual. Rightly or wrongly, we're all going to have different styles. Sometimes it can help us to feel prepared to write something in a really measured, conscious way and spend a lot of time on it. But then if we still don't get a response, that almost feels worse because you're like, what more could I have done? So I think with me, I'm just like trying things and showing up as myself. And if people want more information, of course I would send it. would I need to put like being able to write a good pitch on my goal setting for next year? Maybe there's something there. I'll go into it. But yeah, I do think there's something interesting in the ask, you know, in the conscious, measured, this is you being congruent you, it's just an ask, right? So we can go into that, we can think about that. But yeah, those feelings of feeling scared and rejection and maybe they won't reply and all that stuff, like I totally get it. And I can only say I've been so beautifully surprised by not writing long pitch emails like I was maybe meant to do, and people just responding anyway and saying, yes, Claire, I'd love that. Yeah, they won't all do that, of course, but for the last 6, everyone's gone, yeah, great. So it's been quite chilled. So yeah, I'll just share that with you. I hope that's helpful. So the second point that I wanted to make about joyful growth was that sometimes it's about the ask in a really specific way. So say if you, and I'm going to give a real life example. So say if you are growing your paid subscribers on Substack and you want to email some people directly who engage quite a lot with your publication. So I did this yesterday. So on Substack, in subscribers, there's a filter that you can press to look at who is most engaged in your Substack. They actually give us quite a lot of filters. I can't share it because of data protection, because obviously it brings up everyone's email addresses and the call's being recorded. But if you do need like a step-by-step, let me know and I can try and do that in a different way so that I can maybe do it in a post or something. So when you go in there, you can choose the criteria that you want to email people. Now that doesn't post to Substack, it sends an email, even if they've got smart notifications turned on and they only read in the app. So we're dealing with, I've said this before about Substack, we're dealing with a multi-complex platform that does actually give us some really interesting tools to play with. So I've done it a couple of times. One time I did it over on Creatively Conscious and offered people a discount if they wanted to sign up as a paid subscriber. And then yesterday I did it for Sparkle because I wanted to offer this kind of 7-day free trial for these joyful growth workshops, but I wanted to offer it in a way where people felt like they had time, like there wasn't a rush. So I've seen a lot of flash sales, 24 hours to save the world, 36 hours to jump on. Like that's just not my style. I want to give people time. So I wrote the email in a really measured way around, look, like I'm doing these 3 workshops. You'd be really welcome to come. Like if you don't know me and you want to get to know me, like it's a nice way to meet the gang. It's a nice way to think about how you'd like to grow your Substack. And I sent that out yesterday. And I also sent out an email to my like subscriber list on another email platform that I have, just to give people that offer to kind of share that. And that was something really new. I don't normally do 7-day trials on either publication because I find it quite a vulnerable space to do that, to have people like popping in and out. I feel like I can't hold people in that way. But I set it up, sent it out, and I think it went out to 252 people, and 6 of them came back and said, that would be so lovely, thank you so much. So if I hadn't have done it, then those 6 people, maybe, you know, they might have connected next year. They might have still kept thinking, oh no, I've got more reading to do, or it's not the right time. Like, I don't know. And hopefully I'll get to know them a little bit. Maybe some of them are on the call. I'd love it if they were, but they might catch the replay and that's all good. So in the coming to the sales email, I'm just going to call it that because, you know, we know what that is, don't we? It's like, here's a thing that you might want to do. You'll have to do a 7-day trial to access it. So I'm not asking them for any money, but they do have to kind of click the button for that 7-day trial. So I came to it in a way that was very embodied in my style. I didn't copy what anybody else does or what else I've seen on Substack. I was like, how do I want to invite these people in? So it was really about the invitation from me to them, the same way that I would in real life. And I have done this. I've like chatted to people in real life and I'll be like, oh, I'll just put you on, like you can see what it's about, it's all good, you know, colleagues and stuff. So your next journaling prompt is around the invitation, and I want you to really think about who is already subscribed and what you want to invite them to do. So you might want to remind them that you've got an audio piece live and it's in the archive somewhere, or a whole bank of audio pieces. You might want to invite them to share something about themselves in the comments of a post. You might want to send them a specific email. that is around how you recognize them, you know, so you can filter it by like top commenters, like open rates, the stars, you know, the stars, people get like 5 stars if they've read, because people get 5 stars if they've read like a lot of your work, so they're like highly engaged. You can filter it by the date that they joined your community, so if they've been connected to you for a long time, you might want to say thanks so much for being here. You might want to say, would you share it with one other person? You might want to send them a special offer. So I've given you a lot there, but it's really about the invitation. What invitation do you want to send out to the people who already subscribe to your Substack? What do you want to ask them to do? What do you want to ask them to be part of? What do you want to give to them? I'll write it in the chat. Okay, so we'll have a little chat about the invitation. Yeah, I really like doing journaling around the invitation because so much comes up. So one of the things that I have always wanted to do is send more Christmas holiday cards, like cards around December. I noticed a few years ago that it just sort of petered out, and we went from having like all of the doors full and like a lovely string in the living room to like just maybe like a handful of cards. And I do think it's a really beautiful thing. And I know we're all busy and we're also trying to save the planet, but I just feel like there's such a powerful message in receiving post and receiving somebody's words handwritten. So that was one of the things that I am thinking about for Creatively Conscious members. I'd love to do. I also wrote down how much we have to actually invite people, you know. So this comes up a lot for me. So my friend Lauren has helped me with my human design chart, which I'm still really confused about in lots of ways, but she's brilliant. And she said that part of my chart means that like I have to wait to be invited, or I feel like I have to be wait to be invited. And sometimes like I might overstep an invitation or like, you know, not read the room properly or something. So I was like, oh, but I find that in over communicating, people still don't feel invited. So it's like I need to tell them more. And I do that in the welcome email, but people are so used to thinking that things are like tokenistic. So when I'm saying like reply and tell me what you're stuck with Substack, like I genuinely mean that. Like I want them to reply. And people do, but not everyone. And then as the subscribers go up, I'm wondering if there's another invitation where I can say, how are you getting on? Like, are you all okay? Like, how would I do that? Like, would I do that in a private email to them so they could reply? Would I do it in chat? Like, I'm just questioning that. Just making sure that people feel invited and part of the party, as it were. And then that space to be more vulnerable and to talk about sticking points and to talk about the things that feel hard. I just feel like we're all dancing with what feels a safe space to do that, aren't we? I think, you know, that came up in last week's workshop around community building. Is it chat? Is it comments? You know, we spoke about it last week. We could have a beautiful round the fire chat in comments, but then one of those comments could be shared as a note and then everyone can see the comments, right? If it's a free piece. So yeah, I'm just questioning that, how people can share more of what they're worried about or what's sticking for them. So if you guys have got ideas, feel free to shout. Now, if anybody wants to turn the mic on and have a chat, feel free. I'm going to have a little read of what you guys have put, but if you do want to chat, that would be so lovely. And then we'll go into questions at the end as well. Okay. So Virginia says, use the try it for free email when I get the courage to start my audio notes for subscribers. Yeah, so I think for me, you know, I didn't want to do a 7-day free trial because it just felt a vulnerable thing, but also I felt like I wanted it to be an invite to something. I didn't want it to just be like, oh, here's my publication, just have a look around. I wanted to meet people where they're at and really hold space for like, okay, like this feels a really lovely fit. You're obviously curious about Substack. You've been reading stuff, like come along and see if you can learn something for yourself. And, you know, that's my gift. And if you want to stay in the Sparkle community, that's cool. Yeah, love physical cards. In my head, I'll like hand make them all with the kids, like send them off like middle of December. Never happens. I would love to do that though, I really would. Month of November, Tamsin's going to send a personalized gift in the post. Yes, I saw that and it's so gorgeous. Sustainable art cards and postcards, cheer us all up a bit and bring the in-person connection. Yeah, that's so lovely. Yeah, so and the asking for money thing, Tamsin, I really hear you on that. And actually, you know, feeling okay to be paid for the work that we do in the world, feeling okay to be part of this wonderful time on Substack where a subscription model is a really beautiful and generous thing and people are really into it and are really wanting to kind of pay for our work. I think that sometimes, you know, people can hit content overwhelm. There's a comment from Eve further up just around like, I'm inviting questions, I'm inviting comments, but maybe people are feeling overwhelmed. Do I need to dial it back? And going into that, like, I know I'm guilty of it as well, like over giving. And it's why I had to kind of pause my one-to-one work for a while, because, you know, those were 90-minute sessions and I was exhausted after them because I just want to give people everything. And then I was having to really find a way to recharge myself. So I think there's something in knowing that people have enough content, that you don't need to give them more. And also you can question, you know, what do they want specifically? So sometimes it feels really right, doesn't it, that this is a paid piece, or this is a free piece, or this is for everyone, or this is for a smaller community. But other times you're kind of questioning it. And I think that's when we just need to go deeper and be like, okay, what do people want? Why are they here? Because sometimes people aren't here to comment, or they feel like they maybe would feel like vulnerable or threatened by being able to write something sophisticated enough to kind of meet the tone of the piece. Like sometimes it's because you guys are brilliant writers, and I have this a lot. I'm like, well, what do I say to that? It was so incredible. I haven't got the words. So sometimes it's not about people not wanting to respond, it's them not knowing how to respond. And in those cases, you could make it clearer, like drop me a heart if you've enjoyed this piece. Like, I'd really love that, you know, because if people are reading it, they won't mind if they're on the app to do that. And we're still, you know, coming off a strange time in social media where people were reading our work and not pressing the like button. It just always just baffles me how that happened, how we got into that, but we did. Substack's different, isn't it? Okay, some more in the chat. Uptake with free trials. Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it, Emma? And again, it would be really interesting to know why, you know, did they subscribe to just read a specific piece, and was that invitation, you know, closed at that point? They read the piece, great, I'll pop off again and cancel my subscription. It's hard to know. It's really, really hard to know. And this is where the deeper we can get to know our community and the more questions we can ask, the better we feel about things. I know with Sparkle, you know, some things are going to resonate with some people, and for some people, they're not there yet. And that feels very, very overwhelming. And I really try and extend that sliding scale of like, you know, take this if you want it, but if you don't, just put it down for now. So Jackie's saying she's got quite a few ideas. Have them on little desk notes. I love that. Little words of wisdom that sit on an easel. That's very poetic and lovely. Jackie is a poet, so this will be why. Would love to send that to 4 or 5-star people. Also, I'm keen to do a writing workshop for well-being. January, quite niche, yeah. Zoom gathering before Christmas. Right, some quite specific invites there. Yeah, and that's the thing, isn't it? When you're very specific about what the invite is and who it's for, I think people see themselves in that. So I'm just reading that last line from Jackie, which is an incredibly generous invite, but one I know lots of people would respond really, really positively to. Yeah. Oh, okay. So Emma's saying free trials, the general consensus was that people needed more time to make a decision before buying. Yeah. Yes. And what do we do with that? You know, so if somebody is putting out mostly paywalled content and there's only a week's free trial, that's not going to be the right balance. But if somebody has a lot of free content out in the world, and the 7-day trial gives them a deeper access to you, either a behind the scenes, a workshop like this one, an audio piece, or some sort of archive. But yeah, the pressure of the 7 days, like 7 days comes around really fast, doesn't it? There's other ways to do it. I've got a YouTube tutorial on how to make a coupon. So if you wanted to give someone a longer trial, but it's different to a comp. So you can comp somebody and that is there as a comp and shows up in your graph as a comp, but you can also put someone on a free trial. For the free trial, you can make it, I think it's 760, 730, 60 and 90, I think you can do for someone. And they have to put their card details in. So they're putting the card details in to say, I'm participating in a free trial. I'll remember to cancel it if I don't want to continue. So there is that option. So Alice is saying, one lovely thing Erin Shefton told me was to keep a doc of all positive feedback. Yes, I love that. It's so good, isn't it? And then they're coming in lots of different portals and you're like, oh, where was that? Yeah. So I'm working with Sophie, my VA, this month on trying to collect testimonials about my work this year, because it exists in multiple different places. And I think it's such a good idea. I did have a email folder, but life moved online and they're not so much in emails anymore. So yeah, that's it's a really good idea if you're feeling a bit flat as well, that you can go through and read it like a set of like lovely cheerleaders for your work. Right, great. So Chelsea's saying that about channeling workshop with tarot. Yeah, a bit of a taste of what to come. Yeah, that's good. And you can obviously take paywalls off pieces as well. That's the other thing. So you could send a specific email to say, I've taken the paywall off these 3 articles, put the URLs in. I've done that, you know, for 30 days or whatever you want to do. Remembering that for the most part, once an article has kind of been on Substack for kind of 24 to 48 hours, people don't necessarily re-find it again unless you link to it or unless they're having a good dig about. So from my personal point of view, if I took a paywall off something, someone isn't necessarily going to find that and stumble across it unless I give them the URL. So I think that's really good to know. Okay. Just don't want to miss anyone. Okay, so Susan says, start a guest post by reaching out to creatives interested in discussing their creative process and practices, a set of questions ready to kick off the conversation. Do you have experience with this, or does anyone else? Yeah, so I've got guest posts on Creatively Conscious, and I did it via email to start with, and then I moved it to a Google form, and then I don't advertise it now because I got like too many and it's only 1 a month. So I'll probably advertise it again in March next year. But I wanted to really hold space for the people who had filled in their answers in the Google form and go back to them via email and stuff, just to get like a deeper article, like a deeper experience for my subscribers. We also do that on Company of Two. So Laura Oldfield and I run a podcast called Company of Two for mums who are balancing freelance business, and we've got guest post opportunities there as well via Google form. It's been quite easy, and you can upload photos to it as well, so it means like they don't get lost in email. I don't know about anybody else, but my email inbox is sometimes not the most friendly place for me, but Google Forms seem a really easy way to organize things. So yeah. Okay, so we're heading towards 20 past 10 now, and we've done those 2 kind of invitations around growth and the invitation around thinking about who you might want to collaborate with and how that all feels to kind of put stuff out there. I wondered if we might just set ourselves a little challenge for November. So all our goals are quite different. You know, we're all working on different things, and that's totally cool and amazing. But is there some sort of challenge that we could set ourselves around joyful growth? This will be interesting to see for all of you. But like for me, I've worked on this lovely printout from my friend Sarah Schatz, which is about, I can't remember the language she uses, but I'll ask if I can share with you. But it's basically like 100 different pictures, and that's not how she describes it. It's much more beautiful and poetic than that. But it's basically an A4 printout, and I give myself a gold star, or I did, every time I was pitching out. And this was mainly about funding bids, but then I started it for the Substack pitches that I did as well, like asking people to come on the podcast. So it's been a really beautiful thing. And 100, once you start it, that it's a lot, right? But what you realize is by the time you get to 100, you're going to have a percentage of yeses, which feels really, really nice. So if we don't ask, then there's nobody. But if we do, and we work through in a really measured way, now it might take me 3 years to fill that in. And that's totally cool and fine. But what I'm doing through filling it in and going through that process is working on rejection sensitivity, right? So I could go into this today, but I probably won't. But there is a rejection sensitivity in me that is a core wound from childhood that pops up if there's any rejection in life, work, friendships. So in doing that, I know that it gets easier to just make the ask and be really gracious around whether there's a response or not. It's less easy around funding because I really want to do the project and I get so attached. And then if it's a no from funding, that's harder. But just building in some time to kind of nourish that rejection, I think, is really important work. So I'll share that with you. So it could be something like that, but it could also just be, okay, I've got 3 names on my list, or okay, I've started a conversation with this person. Maybe we could have a cup of tea over Zoom. Like, what would feel really joyful and nice for you to do? Like, yeah, maybe you want to have a cup of tea over Zoom. Maybe you want to print out 100 different pictures document. Maybe you want to just have like a list of 3 people that you want to contact and get a deeper connection with. And maybe it's not about asking for anything yet. Maybe it's just about having more conversation. I've got a couple of those on email, actually, now I come to think of it. We just connected over perimenopause and started chatting about that. It's been lovely. Yeah, okay, right. I'll put this in the chat so we can do that as our last little activity. Okay. Great. Well done, everyone. So as usual, we've rattled through quite a lot and I've said quite a lot of different things in different ways. And that is my approach to hope that some things land and some things you can cast away. They won't be for you. They won't be for you right now, or they won't be for you as in they just don't connect and they don't fit. So we'll spend the next 15 minutes, if you want to stick around, we'll just have a regular chat. So you can turn all of your microphones on if you want to, or you can just turn your microphone on to chat and ask a question. It could be related to the workshop, or it could be related to something else on Substack that you're stuck with, or that you're finding difficult, or you don't know how to do, and I can try my best to help. So yeah, if anybody wants to, you don't have to put your hand up or anything, because I can't get it where I see you all on my screen. So I can't see if anyone's got their hand up, so you can just talk. It's fine. Give you a minute if anybody wants to. You're so welcome.
Yeah, I've got a question. Sorry. Go on, Evie.
Hi. Is it Amber? Oh, someone else was going to go. Oh, sorry.
I started to, but someone else did. I didn't want to interrupt.
Oh, Eve, you go, and then Amber can go.
Okay. Very, very basic question. You said something about linking to URLs, and I'm realizing, oh my God, I've not done that. Every time I just put like my Substack, like where I tell people they can find out more about whatever, and it's just dawned on me they won't then necessarily see anything beyond my subscription page.
Yeah, so you've got your Substack URL, which is like your Substack home, if you like, and then every post has its own unique URL. Every note has its own unique URL. Every chat has its own unique URL. Comments might.
So I need to dig those out.
Yeah, so sometimes people will paste the URL in a post of an old post and say, I also wrote about this here, or you might want to join the community and have a chat here on this post. And it just takes people back to that post, because obviously Substack's chronological. So however many we've signed up for, we get that in our feed and then everything's pushed to the bottom. And that's what I meant about not necessarily like something not necessarily cropping up again unless somebody links to it or finds it. But you can obviously tag your own work and put those URLs on. So when you paste the URL into a post, there'll be on the right hand side, there'll be a little toggle where you can make it small, medium or large view. If you put in multiple posts in a post, then make it small, because otherwise it's like just too much and the post gets too long. If you just link into one, then you can just use the large or the medium. So I would say that works best anyway. You can also obviously hyperlink text. So I might say, oh, you know, Laura wrote brilliantly about this in this post, and then just highlight this post and put the URL in. But there is something really inviting about somebody seeing the Substack post shared in that way. You know, you get the visual, you get their words. So yeah, there's something nice about doing that for sure. Does that help?
I've been doing hyperlinks, but not individual posts or notes, and I just think, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You know, just play around with it, see what works for you and the style of your piece, you know, and like where you want to put it. Have a little look. Great. Thanks, Eve. Amber, did you want to say something, ask something?
Yeah, I still haven't transferred all my emails across from my database to Substack yet. How do I do that? Like, how do I actually copy and paste them in?
So it's MailChimp, right?
Well, no, even just on a spreadsheet.
So if it was MailChimp or a spreadsheet, basically MailChimp, you download, I think it's called a CVS file from MailChimp. So that downloads, and then you go into subscribers and you'll see a button that says import subscribers. And you can literally upload that CVS or that spreadsheet. Now, if you're doing the spreadsheet yourself, I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what, you know, it will want, whether it's like first name, last name, email in 3 different columns. I have put people in, as in I've just typed their email address in, like add subscriber, like one at a time. I've had to do that a couple of times because people were like stuck. But yeah, with the CVS file, it was super easy and it just put them all in, and it'll put them in, you know, it understands when someone's unsubscribed from your MailChimp, so it wouldn't put them in. So it works quite well.
Fab, thank you.
You're welcome. Just on that as well, while we're just waiting to see if anybody else says anything. So there was some good chat around GDPR last week. I just think, again, it's about over communicating. So hi guys, I'm moving you into my new email provider. Like, this is my Substack blog, but it also lets me send you emails. Thanks so much for being here. This is what you'll get. If you want to unsubscribe, you know, you can. Here's the button. Just to be like really clear that we've done all our due diligence. It's a UK thing for anybody watching in other places that cause so many problems, especially for small businesses. But yeah, so anybody else?
Yeah, just on that, Claire, that's something I was going to ask about GDPR, because I haven't actually moved. I've asked people to join me on Substack for my mailing list, but I haven't done anything manually. And I've kind of still got my mailing list there and open, but I don't do as much work on it as I used to, and I feel like I've abandoned people. And I think that you might have posted about the importance of a mailing list in addition to Substack, or was it just more of a case of making sure that you move over your mailing list to Substack?
Yeah,
do you have separate things you send out to?
Yeah, it's different for everyone. So I was like saying in the chat that yesterday it felt like an opportunity to tell the people who have signed up for my mini course, which is called Get Set Up on Substack for Free. It's a mini course and it's powered by my mailing list provider, so that they can get the mini course delivered via email. So obviously with email providers, which Substack isn't an email provider, but we can email people from it. That's the big thing we need to remember. With email providers, we can segment, we can understand if someone's bought a product from us. You know, we can see when they've opened emails, which you can on Substack as well. But this one is a 5-day drip-fed course about Substack. So I wanted to send them the post that I did yesterday on Substack, because they're signing up from that course from Pinterest. So Sophie, my brilliant VA, did some pins that said, sign up here, and then they're signing up and obviously getting that information to their email inbox, and I'm trying to drive them over to Substack if they want to and if they're ready, but it's still quite confusing to them about what Substack is. You know, they might not have spent any time there. So that's an example as to why I keep my email list. I also have it, it's powered by my course platform. So if, you know, if I'm doing a webinar, for example, it'll email people and tell them like it's starting in 10 minutes or whatever. So there's that, but I don't use it loads. I use it when I've specifically got something to tell people. What I used to do is have Notes from the Sea, which was my monthly email, came out on the 1st of the month or thereabouts. And that used to go through that provider. I moved that to Substack, and I said to them, I'm not sending it through MailChimp anymore. I'm sending it through Substack. So if you want to get it, that's where it'll be. And that felt really seamless. Some people unsubscribed, you know, that's fine. But it just felt seamless to say this is where it lives now, and you can read the past episode entries as well.
Is your plan to only really be doing things via Substack and not having to try and do things via a mailing list as well? Because that's kind of was my idea, was to not have to run both. But I suppose it's hard because so many people are not familiar with Substack. Once they're in it and they see the benefits, they're like, actually, this is good, but it's just getting them. Getting them.
I just think if you've got a service-based business, have you got a service-based business?
Well, to be honest, the service is now on Substack. So before it was more just me talking about my processes and, you know, what I'm up to and with my kind of creative work. So
got you. So for me, I will have to just run the 2 spaces because, you know, I have a course platform and it emails people and gives them things they need. So there's no other way of getting around it because I run a service-based business. But for some people, Substack could totally replace MailChimp for sure. Like, I think that some of my clients have stayed connected to Flowdesk because they love it and it's really pretty and nice to design, and it enables them to segment and run nurture sequences, you know, so when someone signs up for a free download or whatever, they can nurture them through, and then they might sign up for a paid for thing. So but I think that if you're holding people on Substack and you've got your paid for community there, sounds like you could just phase your other one out.
Yeah, I mean, my list wasn't very big. I was just wondering how other people were doing it, really. But I suppose it depends on your business and your existing list and how big it is and what.
So Substack is part of my business, but also Substack exists for me as a kind of a really exciting place to kind of have this subscription model set up as well. But I think as an email provider, I still feel that my business needs an email provider, so I've still kept it. And I know other people that feel the same. So they, you know, they've moved big MailChimp mailing lists over, but they've still kept MailChimp to do the kind of their emails that they need to do around like information on products or when a closing date is for something, or, you know, if they've got sales emails to do and stuff. But not to say that we couldn't sell via Substack, we definitely can.
PR stuff is obviously, there's still a bit of a thing, isn't there, about using your Substack to sell things that aren't related to the Substack.
So Substack wouldn't let you set up a solely service-based Substack. Like, you couldn't, I've said this before in calls, but you couldn't set up, okay, like this is just for providing service. Like, you can't do it like that, but you can write and also say, and I've got this. Like, there's no problem with that at all. Primarily it's a subscription model, but, you know, we're all finding new and creative ways to use it. And the advice from the team at Substack with me has been like, great. They love it, you know, they're really up for it. I've had some good chats with them. But if somebody just like had an online shop, for example, and decided to kind of, you know, make a Substack and create a Substack for that online shop, and it was really obvious, that would get taken down. Yeah,
of course. Yeah.
Claire,
okay?
It's worth.
Thank you.
Can I point out that actually we are not allowed to import our lists legally into Substack without making sure that all of those people have opted in, which is why I have this dilemma around double opt-in, because it does reduce your rates. But on the other hand, you know absolutely that those people, each person has implicitly signed up to be on Substack. Because if one person complains and says, I didn't ask to receive this, and they complain to the ICO, then, you know, we can really get ourselves in trouble. So
I think, and we need to put this to Farah, don't we, Caroline? Because this advice has come from Farah to me, and she's UK head of UK partnerships, and you know, we've all done it and we've managed it okay, and we've said this is. So if you wanted to move from, say, MailChimp to Flowdesk, would you be allowed to do that? Is it because it's Substack or no?
No, certainly on MailChimp they you know, I think there's a step missing on Substack, because when you import a list into MailChimp, they ask you to verify that that list has been given approval, they've given their permission. So I think that Substack actually needs to update their policies in terms of UK members.
Okay, let's take it up with Farah. Yeah.
I've put a link in the chat to something from the Information Commissioner's Office.
Okay, cool.
A link there which really spells it all out.
Yes, thank you, Caroline. That's amazing. Yeah, so this is a UK specific thing, but it's sounding like, so my understanding of it is obviously not quite correct, and I really want to clarify that with Farah, because she should know on a deeper level, like what Caroline's saying, you know, and where we stand, and what, and there might just be like a paragraph that we need to write in, or a sentence that we need to write in, or something like that. But yeah,
I think what we need to do is email off on our other platform, email our people and give them an amazingly juicy offer and ask them to opt in. I mean, it'll be a much smaller response, but will be clean and legal. And also it will be the people who really want to be there, rather than a great big list of people.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay, cool. Well, I'll pick it up with Farah this week. I'll copy you in, Caroline, so we can say, look, like, this has cropped up a couple of times. We just want to get it really set where we are with things. Great. Okay. Anybody else? Anyone else want to say anything before we wrap up today? Everyone okay? Finding their way around the platform okay? Knowing what they need to do? Feel very conscious and excited about November and what they're doing? Yeah. Good. Okay, brilliant. Well, like I said, we've covered a lot. Please let it land, throw away what doesn't serve you, have a sit with things, have a think about things, take an action, have fun. All right, I'll see you all again really soon. Take care.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.